This is the podcast between an old school mentor and a digital mentee on managing and/or working with people, navigating a career, growing profits, and not killing your coworkers along the way. Now let's join the consultant, Hayden Shaw, and the millennial who fixes Hayden's iPhone, Seth Tower Hurd.
Consultant and the millennial. He's Hayden Shaw. He's helped over 30,000 managers and companies that are really big, companies that are medium-sized, companies that are smaller, help fix their people and process stuff that they got going on. You can find out more about what he does at peopledrivenresults.com. My name is Seth Tower Hurd. I run a company called Digital Profit Farm, and that's what we're going to go ahead and dive into here today, because I've noticed that even though social media is like one of the big buzz terms, in business right now, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, well, we got to be doing this. We should put some more resources into it, etc. This is a topic that needs to be refreshed about every 6 months because things change. And there's nothing more frustrating than seeing a business try to win at a game nobody's playing anymore. That doesn't matter. So we're just going to talk about mid-2018. Where are things at? If you're listening in, December, and we haven't done another one of these yet, just wait till January. We'll do it again because this information needs to be refreshed about every 6 months. So that's where you're at. Let me give a little bit of a history of social media and business. It first went from "you're crazy. What does this have to do with business? Why do I need to do this?" to we went from that.
Good. Yes, that would be accurate.
We went from that to companies showing utter panic almost overnight.
Yes, keep going.
I'm going to do this. And then they tend to measure the wrong things, which we're going to go into. And then they don't know how to manage employees that are running this stuff. So we're going to go ahead and talk about all those things. Maybe in reverse order. Can we start with why you need to at least know what's going on so that you can manage people if this isn't your your thing? And then how to measure it. Is that okay?
Yes, because I would my especially being my age and generation, I go on Facebook to see pictures of my granddaughter. So I'm on there 5 times a day, but only for her.
Okay, you just want to see photos.
Not that her parents don't matter, but mainly I just go on to see pictures of her.
Okay. No, fair enough. I mean, her parents more or less look the same month to month, and babies change a lot month to month. So, I mean,
and because of that, I would go, hey, you handle it. I don't want to know about social media. You just go make it wonderful. But that's dangerous in any part of the business. And for old dogs like me to say, I don't need to know. I don't need to keep up on what's going on and what the criteria is to tell if it's working, is to say, I don't want to understand the tools of the future. I just want to, and that will allow somebody to sell you snake oil or to have a very underperforming employee that you're expecting to get great results.
So, if you're not paying attention to any part of, whatever business you're in, you can get, really, really jacked over. I had one of my best friends from college had a friend from home, basically, that married this guy, and this guy had stolen probably $50,000 from his company. He was overcharging about $7,000 a month, buying stuff for his home to make it ready for his fiance or whatever. So they buying about $7,000 a month of furniture and stuff like that. And when they got married, the wife forced him to confess. He got fired. I don't know what happened to him after that. She wasn't really my friend. She's just somebody I'd met a couple times, right? So the question is, how does something like that happen? You're like, oh my gosh, what a moron manager. That happens because a stupid manager is just signing the expense report every month and people are busy and don't care. Okay. The same thing with social media. There are so many shady consulting companies out there. There's so many people that haven't produced results that will just take your money every month and aren't actually doing anything. And, a lot of companies are like, well, I got that locked down. We outsource that. I'm busy, whatever. If you just tell me something once a quarter that says it's going well, that's good enough for me. Okay. So we're going to dive into what you should be looking for. But, first of all, you should never hire somebody for something that you don't have some idea of yourself. So I'm not a great accountant, but I at least know things about money before I, outsource my business accounting, right? I know generally about what I make, about what my expenses are, et cetera, et cetera. If I don't know that stuff and I've got somebody that's doing accounting and payroll, and the business gets a little bit bigger, it's much easier for somebody to be skimming money. Recently met a forensic accountant that works on fraud. Yeah. And this guy that was super rich had $50 million stolen from him every week, a little bit at a time, and didn't notice for 15 years. And he was super rich, but still, that's a ton of money. That's a ton of money. Okay. So let's get into what you're looking for. First of all, if you're looking to hire for this, I would say that if you're looking to hire somebody to manage Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and you don't have an account on each one of those things, you're already behind the curve. I don't care if you use it a ton. You better be just kind of tasting in each one of those arenas to get an idea of what's going on. Okay. And then the second thing is that you at least need to be able to talk to some other people in your industry or friends that are in business to see what their businesses are doing and if they're doing it well. So you at least have a metric to go against. Those would probably be two things that are good before you hire somebody for this, outsourced or in-house. Does that sound about right?
Makes sense to me. And I had a guy in a session who, when I talked about social media, and I talked about how older generations tend to be all thumbs with it because we didn't grow up with it. We don't know the rules. We don't know how it feels. And, one of the big complaints, actually, one of the things that the conference board has done studies on is, when you ask managers, what are the things that you think, what are the skills that you think people under 35 are missing? Millennials, what they'll say, what comes up again and again is writing, composition skills. Formal writing is something that they kind of teach in school, but unless you had a business writing course, most people aren't going to have specific stuff on it. But they know how to communicate within social spaces. That's their medium. And so the formal writing people are just as baffled or as lost with social media communication as sometimes people who have spent most of their time on social are when it comes to business writing. And so understanding that it goes both ways can be especially helpful, and that you have to understand enough of it to know if it's good or not. This guy said to me, man, I'm gonna have to learn all this. I said, no, you don't. No, you're missing the whole point. You need to go let one of your younger people in your company handle it for you, and you need to create a policy, a social media policy, so they don't say things you don't want said, or they make sure to say things that are legal, or they know ahead of time what they can and can't do. But the last thing you need to do is to go run it and learn it all. What you need to do is learn enough about it that you know how to evaluate it, and you know if it's working, and and you create the policy for it like you would any other part of your organization that you're going to hire somebody for or outsource.
Absolutely. So get there first. And then, as far as what you're looking for an employee, you're looking for somebody that's really, really good at managing their own time. And can set their own projects, because you need to hold them accountable for top level stuff and to be filling you in. Essentially, this really does come down to metrics, because you can do a lot of activity here and never wind up growing the business, right? So you need to know what you're holding them to, or what you want them to do before you ever get them in the door, freelanced or full time. Okay. Now let's walk you through that. If you're like, hey, didn't you say you don't want to do any of it? Okay. Facebook. Let me just give you some big swath points. Hayden, first of all, when do you think the best time to post to Facebook is right now?
No clue.
Okay. It's Thursday and Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. It had previously shifted. It used to be Monday through Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Consumer behavior has shifted. I think a lot of what shifted it is actually what's Instagram stories, which we're going to get back to in just a minute. So that also should make you uncomfortable as a manager, that 2 days a week, people are really just starting to slide into the weekend. Okay. As far as what's working, because I'm doing this, I do a good bit of social media coaching. A lot of people find a tactic and then they just stay there. So I've got a client right now that's doing a lot of, do you like a business to consumer product that's doing a lot of, do you like this or do you like this? Which is great in 2012. People react to that. Pepsi or Coke, M&Ms or Skittles. Okay. People would react to that stuff. All right. So they'd be like, oh, well, I like Pepsi. And they'd comment, right? That does not work anymore. What's working right now, believe it or not, is very long form journalism. doing a lot of writing because video has become so popular now that there's like a backlash to it. Outside of dropping these episodes and putting out some 1-minute clips on Instagram, I'm not doing as much video these days. I used to do a lot of like video vlogging. I'm back to doing a lot of writing because there's so many voices in the video space that I want to write again. Like I'm going to where people are not at. Okay. So that is a pretty dang important thing. And sharing relevant
articles. By the way, we did a podcast. Go back and look through the podcast and see the one on why I would rather pull my hair out than I would write, and why Seth loves to write and is great at it. And one of the reasons why I do hate him is how fast he's at writing. So I'm still going to do video even if no one watches it.
Yeah, hey, you know what? You got to know your strengths and weaknesses, right? So I would say that if you're going to do video, getting higher production video with some subtitles on it that's about 4 minutes or less is really a good spot to go. And keep in mind always that people are on these mediums for entertainment first, okay? They're not on to be sold by you. So you can't just yell sale, 25% off, special, buy now, sign up for our email list, right? It's not going to work, okay? So I tend to do a lot of writing and sharing stuff that people are going to have opinions on. I'm talking about as a brand and personally, okay? So the kind of stuff that's interesting to your audience and that they're going to talk about with each other, whatever kind of business you're in that you're on social media for, you want your customers talking to each other. And part of that is you have to be accepting of the fact, shouldn't have said this in 2018, but I do. You have to be accepting of the fact that you cannot control 100% of things, which means you're going to get some negative feedback. You're going to get some kooks out there. And part of it is, it's like, oh my gosh, well, somebody said something bad about the business. Well, are they clearly crazy? We'll just delete it, Or are they right? So, I had a pair of dry cleaners I had a dry cleaner lose my suit pants, and then I looked at their Yelp and they lose a lot of stuff. You do not have a social media problem if people are saying over and over again, they lost my pants, this dry cleaner lost my shirt, this dry cleaner lost my jacket. You have a business problem that social media is making obvious to the customer base. So don't freaking blame social media. Run your dang business better. Okay. I would say ideally 1 post, maybe 2 a day. Somewhere between 4 and 6 posts a week would be ideal. And you should be reaching 1/4 of your overall audience. If you want to grow the number of people who like your Facebook page, you're going to have to do trial and error on what's shareable. But really more than that we are in the era of, if you want more likes, buy the ads, okay? Facebook wants some money. You're making money off of their platform. The ads are still really cheap. You got about probably somewhere between 24 and 48 months before social media ads get really expensive. Buy the flipping ads. If you don't know how to buy the ads, digitalprofitfarm.com. I can help you with that, or I can, we can always just do a phone call. And maybe you do realize at the end of the phone call that you can do it. I'm pretty open about my process. I do work for people that know I'm going to do a great job, and would rather me do it than them learn it, and not because I'm like, oh, well, I'm the snake oil salesman that you can't see what's behind the curtain until you pay me. I'll walk you through my process, and if you can do it better, that's okay. I got customers, business is growing. Digitalprofitfarm.com. That's pretty much Facebook. Hayden, how do you feel about that?
In what way?
This is an awkward episode to do as a pair. About what I said.
About Facebook?
Yes.
Facebook is a beautiful thing.
Okay.
Facebook has been very, very good to me.
Okay. Hayden and I both grew up in religious households, and if you didn't grow up in going any kind of religious services, then this joke will not land. But if you did, Hayden just became the kid who just says Jesus at the end of every question in Sunday school.
But that is probably true. No, that was a quotation from early Saturday Night Live, and so you have to be really old to have remembered baseball has been very good to me. When it comes to Facebook, you have asked for me to do more on Facebook repeatedly, and apparently I don't listen, and so that would I'm sure what you're saying is accurate and true.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook a lot more. I'm like most people my age. I got on Facebook because of my kids and grandkids.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why Facebook is 65% of the people who buy off of Facebook are over 45. And so if you're trying to sell business to business, you're actually hitting a demographic that has some money who can buy. And so, ironically, it is an older medium now. Where else do you go, Seth? What do those millennial kids? What are they looking at today?
Well, let me say one more thing about Facebook. The other thing that people tell me about Facebook is like, because it's Facebook obviously has played a role in our political elections. They're like, Facebook is bringing down democracy. And then they turn around and they're like, but I don't think it'll work for my business. I'm like, wait a minute. So you actually think that this thing is powerful enough to destroy the Constitution, but you don't think you can make a buck on it? If that's true, then your business shouldn't exist because you don't have any customers. So I would actually say on the political divisiveness side of things, and you're going to say this is cynical, but whatever. You need to understand that Facebook engagement is higher than ever because that's where people argue about politics.
Right.
So they're there. They're there more than they were in 2014, 2015. Once election cycle started to kick in, that definitely went up. And I think that's around to stay. I think it's a place where people, you cannot scroll through probably your top 7 Facebook stories right now without one of them being about politics. And people writing these really long form essays in the comments section. That's not to say that you need to be manipulative or divisive to sell things. You just have to understand that the audience is there. Okay. Kind of like you have to understand why the audience is on YouTube, et cetera. We're going to move over to Instagram. And I'm actually going to hold my phone up because I don't think Hayden is on Instagram. And we're going to talk about Hayden again.
Once again, there are photos of my granddaughter on Instagram.
Okay, so we're going to talk about you again at the end, so you don't get off of the hall pass here because we've tried a couple of times, right? So the first one, just my story right now. You might think this is really boring. This is a UFC fighter. If you're watching the video, playing soccer. It's a live Instagram video. Okay, let me see if I can find another good one here. Okay, there's somebody making steak. Okay. Here's somebody at a barbecue restaurant. Is this in somewhere we could go? Hayden and I are always trying to find barbecue. Okay. I don't know necessarily that people are okay with us doing their stuff. Here's somebody that Joanna Gaines from Fixer Upper. She has succulents. Okay. Hayden, do you even know where these are in Instagram?
No.
Okay. So they're the little round bubble things at the top before you actually get into the photo. So if you're watching the video, you definitely have an advantage here. And sorry to well, you know what? Why should I apologize for rebroadcasting what people have already freaking broadcast? I'm not going to do that. Okay. So Instagram stories are what Snapchat used to be. They're there for 24 hours. And you can do a lot more animation type things, writing on the screen. It's much more about being cute and interesting. One thing I've done with Instagram stories, it's been very that has had high engagement because you can see how long people stay on your stories and how many people do it. I do 4 slides that are all text because, again, I don't see other people doing this. 4 slides that are all text that give a preview to an article I've written or a Medium post I've written, and then just say, find me wherever else to read this thing. It's gone in 24 hours. There's a sense of urgency there. And Instagram has gotten so pretty. It's a place where you can kind of be gritty on authentic again. Instagram works really well. Instagram is the motivational speaker of social media. So everything's perfect. Everything's beautiful. And if you want to be different, don't be perfect and beautiful. Don't touch up the photos of people unless that's your brand. You're doing, makeup or art, or you're a bodybuilder or whatever, right? So regular Instagram, I would say, be grimy if you can. Be really pretty or really grimy, one of the two. And I guess one thing to ask is if you're a 25-year-old.
I do grimy better, I guess, if those are the two.
Well, if you're a 25 or 27 or a 30 something 20-year-old entrepreneur who's really attractive, you should be doing a bunch of selfies and talking about your business because, and it's not necessarily like a sexual attraction thing that people are clicking on your photos or stopping on your photos because they think you're hot. Human beings are just, from babies on, are wired to look at more attractive faces. Whatever your sexual orientation is, you can be a straight man and you're more likely to stop on a photo of another well-groomed straight man, not because you're attracted to that person as a mate, but because that's just how the human brain is wired. We look at attractive, symmetrical faces, right? So do that. I would say that Instagram is much more about long form. The funny thing is writing is back all over the place. Long form blogging, which means you need to write it in a separate, program and use the little dots to make it like paragraphs, because Instagram makes you write it all in one paragraph. And if you don't know what that means you probably need to outsource this thing, or you need to spend some more time figuring it out. Instagram varies by day. So I decided not to actually say in the episode what the best time Sunday through Saturday is, because you're not going to remember anyway. Audio is not the best way to convey that information. You need to Google what's the best time to post to Instagram. You'd be very surprised at Saturday at 2 a.m. how many people are still up coming home from the bar and checking out Instagram. Okay. Story every day. As a business, as a leader, put out a story every single day and at least one post a day on Instagram. Don't underestimate the power of quotes either. Feel free to put out quotes. Just do a dang good job and don't make them look really cheesy. I actually probably think I'm going to need to do a blog post on this and on Medium, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and we'll link to it because there's too much I need to write down for this one, Hayden. Okay. So we're going to talk about at the end, how to put this all together and run it as a system. I just mentioned Medium, so I'm going to talk about it. Okay. Medium is where smart people.
Yeah. I hadn't even heard of Medium until you told me the other day that you don't use Twitter as much. And I was like, what? Okay. And so, so I never even heard of Medium.
Okay. So what Medium is Medium is a platform. Actually, I believe it was started by the guy that started Twitter. And it rewards you based on, it gives you stats, feedback, and rewards you, pushing you up to have other people see your stuff based on how many people actually read your story. Okay. So it's blogging. Blogging is back. One of the reasons blogging died 5 or 6 years ago is because people got too greedy and everything was just turning into a sales pitch, and people weren't really sharing information for the purpose of sharing information, which in turn is a very selfish thing to do, because you will get more business.
It wasn't content marketing. It was just sales pitches.
It was sales pitches.
It was sales copy.
And so everybody used to have a blog that all died. Then they all tried to become YouTubers and or Instagram famous, which is what everybody's trying to do now. So I'd like to run where people aren't. And running where people aren't right now is I'm trying to write daily for Medium. Okay. And that's hard because you got to do a good job. You can't just hit send on something. And so it is definitely the place where thought leaders are hanging out. I'm noticing that there's a lot of really smart business people that are on there. We're probably still a little bit ahead of the curve of it being mainstream, which means you should get there right now, because before a medium is big, I can't say medium about medium, before a genre of social media is big, then that's the place to get there. Okay. So it was way easier to get a ton of Twitter followers back in 2006 to 2008 than it is right now, because people were more generous in following other people, et cetera, et cetera. So if you could think of Twitter as short thoughts, Twitter is there for short thoughts. Hot takes, fast reactions. The Medium is for thoughtfulness and really for growing in your career and growing in ideas. And it's really for sitting with an idea and being challenged. I'll tell you what Medium is for me. It's the newspaper. So I tried subscribing to the Washington Post digital, and it's something I mainly read on my phone. And I just kind of elected that it was a little bit too like trying to drink from a fire hose. I work too much, and I don't have the time to read in depth that kind of news coverage. So I ended up canceling it, and I spent the $5 a month on Medium instead. For me, Medium is the newspaper. I tend to read a lot about economics and business, and then current events on there.
So you have to pay for Medium.
Well, you can read for free if you want to. It's going to cut you off after a certain number of reads every month or whatever. So if you're not a really heavy user, then it doesn't matter. The other thing is there's no comments. which I think is very interesting because people will get lost fighting in the comment section. You just have to engage with really smart material. Think of it as almost like if TED Talks were a social media, and you can get people to follow you. So they can follow you, they can clap for you, but they can't comment. Okay. You don't like to write, so I don't think this is...
I see. So it takes away the world of trolling.
It does take away the world of trolling. Why this is not the right thing for you. If you don't like to write, I'd don't think it's going to be your thing. So here's something from The Economist, which is a British newspaper. I'm just going to show you real quick. So you'll notice there's little hand clappy things on the bottom there. And I can clap for the article. Oh, look at that. I'm clapping for this article I didn't actually read about Netflix. And that's how people can give you feedback and push you up in the algorithm. You write really good stuff. If you are a smart person among smart people, you will succeed. Smart person among smart people who likes to write, because I think Hayden is brilliant and doesn't like to write. So that's a good transition into Twitter, actually.
Well, no, let me stop.
Yes.
How would Medium compare to LinkedIn as a place to post articles if you're a business person and you're interested in B2B? And whenever you ask somebody, where do you go for B2B? The first thing they say is, if you're in the B2B market instead of business to consumer market, oh yeah, you need to be in LinkedIn. Well, how do you think Medium is? And should you post in both? Should you post something in LinkedIn and then post the exact same thing in Medium if you're going to do a long form?
So people ask me how I get good at this stuff. I get good at this stuff by doing it. Okay. So one of the experiments I've been running is I would post, not on the same day. I wouldn't post the same article twice to LinkedIn. I would post a note to LinkedIn, and which is where you write natively. It's like blogging within LinkedIn. And then I would, on a different day, I would post similar content to Medium and then share the link on LinkedIn like you're sharing an article. And what I would do is share the link, and then I'd put a kind of a little 2-sentence lead in from somewhere in the article, not the intro, but just a compelling line. And I'm getting more feedback, more discussion off of LinkedIn by posting to Medium and then sharing to LinkedIn as opposed to just writing on LinkedIn or putting video up there or whatever.
Interesting, but you're not just posting the exact same thing in both.
No, I'm not. I would say, although you probably won't get a lot of crossover, it's not like that would necessarily be a bad thing. I'm just noticing that people are more likely to click through.
But you're doing something with it. You're actually taking another step and posting to LinkedIn, but you're posting something compelling from what you wrote in Medium and then linking people over to Medium, and then people come back and comment on LinkedIn.
Yep. And I would say that I have a lot of business discussions on Facebook, Facebook Messenger and stuff like that, from people who have found me and added me and stuff like that. And our show does very well on Facebook. That has been more helpful than LinkedIn in a lot of ways. I think that there are people who are very active on LinkedIn. Those people who are very active on LinkedIn tend to be one of two people. They need a lot of information from other businesses to thrive. For example, if you're in wealth management or something like that, you need to know what's going on. Or they're managers who pretty regularly need to hire. And so that's probably the two things that people are there for. I'm not sure that I see a lot of people just hanging out there for business growth, although there are some. But kind of like people, you're logging into Facebook to check on what your granddaughter's doing. I don't see as many people just hanging out on LinkedIn just trying to grow their career. Most people are there with some kind of objective in mind. They're either info gathering or they are somebody who has to hire pretty regularly.
Well, one of the things that people, I actually joined a LinkedIn group. I pay an annual subscription to be in a group with a LinkedIn expert. And what he said is there's a noticeable difference in comments regarding posts, unless you're in a group. People may go to groups there, but unless you're in a group, there's a noticeable difference to comments. So the fact that you're getting comments in LinkedIn by posting to Medium is very interesting. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So let me talk about groups on Facebook, and I'm just going to trash Twitter. So let me just talk about groups on Facebook and LinkedIn real quick. So groups are where you're gathering people privately. The groups, honestly, that I have seen explode, women seem to be very much more into groups than men. I'm not exactly sure why, but groups that have a healthy number of women who are willing to engage around a topic, are in much better shape. And so really your job as a person who's adminning a group is to go out and find the people who are going to be like me, who are, have a lot to say in the world, and who are very well networked, who are going to bring people in. So, for example, I use a tool for workout recovery called a Fascia Blaster that I highly recommend. The women's group is the single largest group on Facebook because they do women's and men so that people don't get self-conscious about, posting body pictures or whatever, right? So the fascia is that kind of white stuff between your skin and muscle. If that gets bound up, you get kind of like overly tight and your workouts don't work, okay? The women's group is the single largest Facebook group, period. It's the single largest group on Facebook. It's got, I don't know, hundreds of thousands or millions of people. The men's has 5,000. It's the exact same product. And I don't think men are using it less. Just for whatever reason, men tend to participate in groups less. I haven't figured that out exactly why yet. But a group is healthy, first of all, I would say, when it has active women who care, because those are the ones that demographically are driving this, and then isn't totally contingent on you. And I would say that we haven't done the best of this on Facebook, on the Consultant of the Millennial Facebook. The discussion tends to happen when we drop a new episode and I get in there and spark some discussion and the people are into it. I have not grown the group yet to a really healthy place, which is where people are posting on their own.
Well, that's just because the shoemaker's kids go barefoot. And you're going to have to convince my daughter-in-law to post pictures of my granddaughter in our private group so that I go in there daily.
Okay. That's also going to be a massive turnoff for other people. A lot of people want to run a Facebook group as a sales pitch. It can't be that. The best thing you can do if you want to make your group a sales pitch or you want to convert your group into customers is you can drop bonus material and you can say, hey, sort of let you know I put together a video or I put together a quick course or whatever. I'll email it to you. You can sign up right here. That's about as much as you can do. You can do it maybe every other month, once a quarter. That's about as hard as you can push. People are there to get value for whatever it is they care about, whatever it is they're talking about. Facebook and LinkedIn groups are both the same. As soon as you cut the goose open to try to get the golden egg out, it's over. Gonna jump to Twitter.
That's tweetable right there.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and jump over to LinkedIn. I'm sorry, we did LinkedIn. The other thing is I would say that the scuzziest people hang out on LinkedIn, just so you know. People who just want something from you, who are snake oil salesmen. I don't respond to a lot of, just, hey, I got a question for you. Can we do a phone call? I probably lost some business by not responding to people, but I don't care because life is short and I don't want to hang out with scuzzy people. That might be tweetable too, but LinkedIn is just a lot more spammy than
LinkedIn is a lot more spammy. There are actually LinkedIn systems that teach people to do the spamming, that teach spamming systems.
Yeah, and if you paid money to become more of a bad person, you double suck. Okay, let's talk about why I hate Twitter.
Hey, a gentleman I worked with at Franklin Covey, he's a professor now at Vanderbilt. He 3 years ago said, well, hey, if I'm going to teach marketing, I need to actually do this. So he's got 50,000 followers on LinkedIn and is highly respected on it. So it is a platform that can work if you work it right. And if you do it right, he loves to writes every week and links what he does into what's hot in the news and has now a loyal stream of followers.
Wow.
So you can do it without being scuzzy in it. But set this right. You're going to get a lot more spamming on LinkedIn than any other format because for people it feels more like email than any other format. So people who do email, who have done email marketing, think of LinkedIn as the closest thing to email marketing. So I agree with that, and I think we're now seeing a generational divide. So you just keep going there.
Okay, yep. Twitter, I think is garbage, and I recommend that you probably get off of it. I'm about ready to cancel myself.
All right, so that's probably the most provocative thing you've said here. Now that we're, so you got to tell a little more about why you think Twitter.
Yeah,
you off Twitter.
Okay, so when Twitter started, it was a really interesting place for ideas. Okay, now Twitter, and I follow a lot of different kinds of people. It's mainly a place to try to do like a sick burn against the other side. Things have become much more binary in American culture. Right. From religious theology to obviously politics to sports in a lot of ways, right? Traditional journalism is dying. They're overcompensating for it by trying to do more clickbait headlines, and Twitter is just an outrage machine, right? So I check on Twitter for sports, politics, and business. It's somewhat interesting for sports, although I may just delete the dang thing off my phone. Although I do have some Twitter stuff I need to manage, so I probably can't do that. So maybe I'll just sign out of my own account. Okay. It is, so, you know, it's somewhat good for sports because I can find out breaking news about sports I care about. Politics, it really is just a place to be outraged at the other side and to, like, quote unquote, like, you know, burn them, right? And for business, I would say that there's virtually no, for your own career growth, there's virtually nothing going on there that's worth your time. It's just kind of garbage. It is a barren wasteland of people yelling at each other. And I've stated it because it's my medium in some ways, because I'm in social media management. But where you should be paying attention is it's a really good place for instant customer feedback if you're in B2C. Okay. Or B2B. So, hey, the server is down. Hey, you know, our restaurant's going to be, you know, hey, we apologize. The restaurant's going to be closed from, for the first 2 hours on Saturday because we had a water main break, and then just checking on feedback. I have not done as good a job about finding my leads on Twitter. People who are business leads that I'm, and emailing with or whatever and researching them and maybe talking back to them a bit there. I haven't done as good a job of that as I, have meant to, but I can also probably find out more about them on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook anymore. So I would say get out of the Twitter game, honestly. I'm freaking tired of it. And I think it's a time suck. And unless you're getting a lot of customer feedback or need to pay attention to customer feedback, I think it's worthless.
And you can do that. You can do that in a tool rather than just on LinkedIn. So, I mean, you can, LinkedIn, Twitter, you can do that on Twitter's site, but you can use a tool that allows you to see things based on what you want to follow, based on your own feedback. And you can check that a couple of times a day without having to follow Twitter and get done what you need to get done without the time suck, which, now that the nation is more divisive, people really are. Now there's more binary. You had a great word. People really are more stressed. And most people don't need. Mindfulness is now this huge juggernaut of everybody trying to calm down at work. And many people do it to themselves by getting all wound up in binary debates where people are burning each other. And it's not good discourse. It's not civil discourse. It's not helping anything. And it just makes people more stressed. I mean, that's more and more of what wellness people are saying in the business spaces. You need to do things that relax you rather than things that aggravate you. And Twitter has turned into an aggravation machine.
I'm going to post this little clip as a Twitter video on Twitter about why you should delete Twitter, because I just think it's funny. YouTube, this is something Hayden knows he needs to be doing, and we're going to talk about it. YouTube, you basically need to make playlists. I thought you said
you were getting away from video.
YouTube is still the second biggest search engine in the world. I'm getting away from doing a daily video like vlog on Facebook, and I'm writing instead. But YouTube, you need to be really searchable. You need to, and again, I don't know that I necessarily need to. I'm going to write a Medium article about some different tools you can use. I don't know that I'm going to rewrite best practices for Facebook, because for gosh sakes, you can Google that and get it. If you can't read a couple articles yourself, I don't know that you need me to summarize it for you, because you probably just don't care enough to do it. You need to make playlists. You need to put out a mix of short and long form content, which, Hayden and I are on the cusp of doing, putting out little pieces of the show and not just the whole show. And you need to tag them really well. And as your buddy over on LinkedIn is doing with 50,000 followers, you need to tie it into current events and do a lot of tags on the bottom. The thing that's really, really good on YouTube is that if you're trying to win in the SEO game, search engine optimization, do a bunch of YouTube videos and link back to your main site and some interior pages, because it'll really boost your SEO. It's really fantastic that way. That's the big ones. So, we talk about putting a bow on it. Let me put a bow on where we've been, then we'll talk about systematizing it, and then we'll wrap the episode. So Facebook, once a day, maybe twice. Sharing articles is back. Try to share stuff that people are going to talk about, and long form native posts that are just really long with text and are nothing else. I would say photos are not doing that well. So if you think you're sharing groups of photos on Facebook, people are not as into that anymore, like big groups of photos. If you're doing photos, give them 1 to 2 photos and not 30. Okay. So don't put up, hey, here was our customer appreciation night. It went great. That's not going to work as a post anymore. Just say thanks to all of our customers and put up 2 best of photos. Okay. Twitter, delete it. It sucks. Forget your password. Don't reactivate. And then Medium is where the smart people hang out. Do a really good job in writing. Follow other people and clap for them on occasion, like I showed you. And then LinkedIn. Try not to be a jerk. Share relevant stuff. And YouTube, make playlists, short and long form content. Oh, and Facebook, you need to put subtitles on your videos, and nobody's going to care. All right, so that's a lot of tactics. Now, the system is you need a spreadsheet every week that says, as a company, we are going to post 4 times this week on Facebook, and we know 2 of those are really prime time. So you start with Facebook. What's our prime time content this week? Then you start building out by the month and by the quarter. And you need to be really self-aware of what's going on in the world. So, as we record this, World Cup's going on, Wimbledon's going on. It's July, so I'd say it's a little bit of a quiet news cycle. Other than that, there is still kind of the remnants of the, the childhood separation stuff politically going on. We're recording this before the next Supreme Court justice is picked. But you just need to know what's going on in the world. And if you're Wendy's, are you going to tweet about the Supreme Court justice pick? No, not necessarily. But, or whatever your business is, if you're in construction, are you going to tweet about it? No, probably not. But you need to have an idea of what's going on in the world so you're not tone deaf. That includes like on 4th of July, say happy 4th of July, not like, oh, well, did you know this about, our industry? So build it out, and then after the content is built out and regularly reviewed, you can go back, see what's working, what's not working. And that's how you manage an employee in this whole thing, is it's systematized and not just letting them sit there with a computer and a phone and just randomly post crap every day when they're really just catching up on their friends' Instagram stories.
That's a pretty good bow right there, my friend.
Okay. Have I convinced you at all?
Convince me of what?
Oh, to do more stuff.
No, I'm old.
That's the other thing. We'll go out on this. That's the other thing is, do you have to do this? You really don't. I mean, if you are a family business that has always made great money and you're in B2B, I had a meeting this week with somebody that is doing roofing. They're doing roofing shingle removal, and honestly, they're growing a lot because they provide excellent customer service, and they're doubling in size. And it's a guess that maybe on the podcast in the future, they're doubling in size, and every year. Do they need social media if they're doubling in size every year because they provide such excellent customer service and all the roofers know who they are in the Chicago area? Not really. So another strategy on social media is don't. But if your strategy is something other than don't, digitalprofitfarm.com, you can check out my videos right there. And you can also set up a phone call with me. Like I said, I will give you everything that's in my toy box. And if you want to go do it yourself, that's cool. If you need to outsource it and or have me coach your staff, I do that as well. Digitalprofitfarm.com. He's Hayden Shaw, peopledrivenresults.com. You got people, you got process stuff that's going on. Hayden is at people-driven.
As long as you don't need social media, results.com.
Hayden's at peopledrivenresults.com. The Facebook group that I just sort of slammed, you should check it out because it tends to be my lowest priority because I have so many social media accounts I'm managing. But because I did this episode, we're going to do a better job of doing it, of keeping that community growing. If you've got, managerial and or marketing and or social media questions that you
by the way, about our Facebook group, yes. Jump on there, join the group, and tell us the kind of questions you have. Give us some topics. That's really where people can find not only a lot of value from asking each other questions about business, but also jump on there and give us questions you want Seth and I to talk about, and we'll end up with an even better show.
This is the Consultant and the Millennial. We will see you next week, and hopefully we'll see you in the Facebook group before that. See you then.